So thank you all for coming out here. Fortunately, this is basically a happy story. I mean, it's actually kind of miraculous, depending on how you want to look at it. But it's the story of my father. And fortunately, my family preserved the documents, preserved the story, and then we have other people on other sides of the Atlantic preserving this as well. So this is the crew. It's a B-17. Okay, I imagine most of you, based on, know what a B-17. It's a heavy bomber. There was a B-17 and a B-24 were the two heavy bombers. And it's a 10-man crew. So you see the crew in front of it. Again, my name is Rick Feingold. If you want to get in touch with me, maybe I'll leave some business. I always forget to do this. Some business cards there, whatever. So there's my contact information. And anyway, there's the plane, there's the crew, called Destiny's Tot. And this plane's going to be shot down over occupied France as we get into the story. So here's an interesting photograph. What is going on here? Farmfield, France, 1944. What are they looking at? And more importantly, why are they looking at? Why is it of something of interest? We kind of have a good idea what they're looking at, but so just think about this. You're in France, occupied, and who are really going to find things like this first? Adults or kids? Kids, right? That's what kids do. They have more time and they like to explore. And they're walking down the street, wherever they are, and like, oh, what is that? Right? Just imagine how fascinating this is for a kid. Oh, an adult too, but more for a kid, right? And just a combination of people there. So what are they looking at? Yes, it's a downed airplane. So in France, especially northern France, there's downed airplanes. It's happening all the time, like every day. Oh, that's an everyday occurrence. And then these downed airplanes, and sometimes the men, and certainly the parts of the plane are now in a field. And they're walking down. So I was in France last year, I'll tell you more about it. And I was on the side of the church. The churches are the meeting places. You want to meet a friend someplace in town, you say, meet me at the church. So that's kind of how it's organized in France, at least in small towns. So here's the outline of the story. Training and bombing missions of Lieutenant Louis Feingold. The last mission and final bomb run, that's the term they use when you're shot down. Evading capture and escape with the French resistance. Back in Allied hands, post-war reunions with the French resistance. So now this is an account that's now 80 years old or 80 years young. Okay, it's been written up in the books there and in the history, local history, all that sort of thing. So it's my father, just a Jewish kid from Brooklyn. Okay, born in 1919. He's drafted into the infantry at the age of 21. A little bit older than the others, but the other thing we notice is he's in the infantry, but it's before Pearl Harbor, well before Pearl Harbor, a year before Pearl Harbor. And he goes through the basic training, and what does that say? Infantry. It doesn't say Air Force. He's going to end up in the Air Force, but it's infantry, right? Why? Because there's not really an Air Force at that time, not like it is today. It's under development. They don't really even have the planes. Planes hadn't really been built yet. They'd been designed, yes, as prototypes, but they didn't have, planes like they have today. Pearl Harbor is attacked, receives orders for the Pacific Theater operations. Again, he's still in the infantry, supposed to go over to Asia to fight the Japanese. And then all of a sudden something happens, I'll tell you what happens. Reassigned to U.S. Air Force Flight School navigator training. And then through September through December 1943, stationed in Horham, England for Allied bombing missions. And my family's visited what remains of the base in Horham, and all had kind of almost first-hand experience on that. So that's the basic timeline. Just look at this date here. That was the most dangerous part of the war, the air war. Think about the air war. We didn't really have an Air Force in 1942. Just a few, whatever, small numbers. We didn't have the men trained. We didn't have the equipment, the planes, okay? So we're not mounting an air offense or attack until 1943. We still don't have enough planes. We still don't have a mass quantity. So obviously the Germans are way ahead of us. They have great technology, great training, great everything. They're super qualified to fight a war like this. And so our planes during this time period are getting shot down a lot. Shot down, we'll talk about what the chances of surviving that in a moment. So, how did he get in the Air Force? Do you want to be in the infantry fighting the Japanese? Is that where you want to end up? Well, most of the time you are. But, all right. So we got two versions here. I'm calling it the official military version. It's not. It's just one time he wrote this and sometime he wrote the second one with more details. But I'll read this. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, I was already in the Army. The reason I was in was that there was a war going on in Europe. And since I was single and 21, I was very eligible, and therefore I was drafted in November of 1940 into the infantry. It was supposed to be for a year. But when the year was up, they still didn't let anybody out because the war was going on very strong. Then a month later came Pearl Harbor, and I was in for the duration along with everybody else. Because of the war, the Army, as well as every other branch of service, started to expand. At that time, the Air Force was part of the Army, and I decided to try to get into that branch. You had to take a test to qualify. I took the test and passed. So therefore, I got transferred to the Air Force. In the Air Force, I qualified for flight training and became a navigator. I became part of a crew of 10 on a B-17 or Flying Fortress. How's that sound? Sound pretty good explanation? Or was there maybe something left out? Right? You know, it's always politics, stuff like that. All right. What's that over there? An outhouse, right? Amanda, you ever been to an outhouse? It's too young for that sort of thing. The rest of us, you know, maybe used it in a camping trip or something. So, what really happened? Okay, more details. He was days away from being shipped off to fight in the infantry against Japan in Asia. These are his words of what happened next. It's a great story. This is great. I was in the 27th Division, the 105th Infantry A Company. You're already seeing, you're getting more details here, right? And right after Pearl Harbor, my outfit was shipped to Salinas Air Base, which is about 60 miles south of San Francisco. We were all set to go to Hawaii, to go to the Pacific Theater of Operations. My barracks bag with all my belongings was put on the boat, and we were to follow soon after. While we're doing some practicing maneuvers with B Company, I had to go to the latrine. Both A Company and B Company used the same latrine. Next to me were two GIs from B Company. One worked in headquarters. He was telling the other GI that an order had come through that the Air Force was in dire need of men in order to expand in a hurry, and that any GI who could pass a written test and physical would be transferred to the Air Force. But I had to get to an Air Force base to get this done. I got a hold of a blank pass, filled it out for 3 days, and signed my lieutenant's name. I walked out the gate, showing my pass, and hitchhiked to Salinas Air Force Base, which was nearby. I was sent to the orderly room, told them why I was there, and then proceeded to take a physical, which I passed, and then a written test, which I also passed. I was told to go back and wait for orders to get transferred to the Air Force. I was afraid that I would be shipped out before my orders came through. Luck was with me, my orders came through, and I was sent to the main headquarters. The next day, I went back to visit my old company. They were gone. They'd been sent to Hawaii. I found out afterwards that they were in heavy battle with the Japanese and lost a lot of men killed and wounded. I was the same lucky guy who missed out on that and was shot down over occupied France and escaped back to England. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the air war. What does the legend say here? 8th Air Force targets, June through December 1943. If we change the date to 1944, the map's going to look different. So the air bases are in this thumb. It's called East Anglia, the thumb of England. It's the easternmost portion, right? And see, I'm not sure, it's 60 or 70 miles, 80 miles from London. All the air bases are here, and they're going over and all these targets in different directions here, dropping bombs, coming back. So Berlin's not on this yet. Berlin is further east, so that would be obviously picked up in 1944. They're dropping bombs, and a crew would probably go out every 2 or 3 days, 2, 3, 4 days. That was how you fought the war. That was your combat. You would go out every 2 or 3 days, drop the bombs, it's a full day's work. You get up, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's your job. All right, so he wrote letters home, and we got these letters, all of them, and each letter he would write the date and the number of missions. So we're going to read excerpts from 3 of the letters, the ones having to do with the war.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Is a mission outbound and return to base and then back out again?
No, it's outbound, drop the bombs, come back to base.
And then go back out again. So if you're doing 3 missions in a day.
No, you just do 1 mission a day.
So does that mean like 3 targets?
No, you get too confused. They just go out, drop the bombs, come back. They're, big squadron, whatever. So the point, I think maybe your point is that there were other groups that dropped bombs over other cities the same day.
Yeah.
But those are other planes.
Right. I was just trying to understand when you're saying you did 3 missions in a day.
He didn't do 3 missions a day.
Like October 6th, 3 missions. What is that?
No, he had 3 missions under his belt, separate days before that. Between September 18th and October 6th, he did 3 missions.
Okay, sorry. I didn't understand.
All right, let's read the letters. Because so 7 missions, not in 1 day, of course. It's raining cats and dogs, and there is no flying today. At this present writing, I've got 7 missions to my credit. My crew has shot down 7 Nazi planes, which doesn't do Der Fuhrer any good. I haven't shot down any yet, but I've done my share at keeping them away. The forts are doing an excellent job at bombing Hitler out of creation, and no doubt are helping to shorten this war with Germany by years, and that is no exaggeration. Who can tell me what a fort is?
Fortress?
Yeah, a flying fortress. The B-17's nickname is a flying fortress. November 5th, 9 missions. 3 weeks, only 2 missions? Something going on there. What went on there? He flew October 14th. That's Schweinfurt 2. Who knows about the Schweinfurt missions? Brutal missions, right? They lost 20% of the planes. You can't lose 20% of the planes every day. You're supposed to lose like 4% or something like that. So they kind of pulled back a little bit. I've got 9 missions to my credit, and now they are ticking off slowly but surely. They say the first few missions are the toughest, and I believe it, for I don't think the ones to come can be tougher than the ones we've gone through now that we've got P-38s to escort us all the way into the target. When we have fighter protection, the Jerrys, who are the Jerrys? Very good, thank you. Stay away from the B-17s, but as soon as our fighter escort leaves us, the Jerrys jump on us like a bunch of vultures. Those P-47s, P-38s, and Spitfires are the best friends the B-17s and B-24s have. How I love those pilots. Continued. My navigation is getting better and better as I've had quite a bit of experience, especially in combat where the pressure is really on. I'm also becoming pretty good at handling a machine gun in there in the nose of the ship. Even though combat may be dangerous, I enjoy it, perhaps partly because of the danger and because I've got confidence in myself now that I've been through some combat missions. I used to hate it at first, and I couldn't concentrate on my navigation. And let me tell you, I was really scared those first few times, but it doesn't bother me now. I just consider it another day's work and go ahead and do it just nonchalantly as though I were assorting dresses in the shop. My grandfather was a garment manufacturer and garment distributor. November 15th. We haven't been doing much flying lately, and at this riding I've got 11 clean missions in. The last few have been pretty easy, and as we call them, milk runs, which is okay with me. We haven't hit much opposition, although some of the other groups have not been as lucky. Well, that's how this business is, just a matter of luck. Okay, there's the plane, B-17. All right. It's actually, when you get inside one of these, there's not too many of them around it anymore. Mostly they don't fly, but they're in museums, and you can maybe go inside them in the museum. And they're actually really, really tight. So, all right, here's our specifications on the B-17. So top speed 287, but mostly it's flying 150. Okay, you know today's planes fly, what, 500, 600. Fighters faster, of course. Ceiling is good, gets way up high, okay, fine. They'll be flying at 25, 30,000 feet. 4 engines, and we'll go over the positions on the plane in a moment. 11 to 13 machine guns. Everyone has at least one machine gun, and aside from the pilot and co-pilot, it's 10 positions. So those are 10 positions on the plane. Well, those are the people, but let me just go on here. So in this plane, you got a nice diagram here. The front of the plane, you see is sort of like a semi-private office workspace here, where the bombardier is right in the front, and then the navigator has a desk, table, with all the maps and everything there. Okay, that's the front of the plane. So they kind of work kind of with each other, and or side by side. Then we have the pilot and the co-pilot. You see they're raised up a little bit higher here. Okay, kind of on another level. And then you have the top turret gunner. He's also an engineer, and he will spin around, and I'm going to show you a video of all this in a moment. He's going to spin around 360 degrees, and of course he's got a big gun up there. And then the bombs, the radio operator, okay, he's also got a gun. The ball turret gunner, right? You don't want to crash land and be in that position. The ball turret gunner, again, is going to spin around. The tail gunner, and then the waist gunners. These planes are not pressurized, right? They're not pressurized. What does that mean?
It's cold.
It's real cold. So above 10,000 feet, you have to be on oxygen. And what did I learn in science class? Every 300 feet minus 1 degree. So 30,000 feet minus 100 degrees. So they wore number of layers in their suits. They were on oxygen. They were tethered to the electrical system, which gave them, heated suits, so to speak. Almost like astronauts. I mean, not astronauts, but kind of like that. Totally dependent on the electrical system. And then there was an intercom in the plane and, all those sorts of things. So, but it wasn't pressurized. B-24, B-17 is not pressurized. The B-29 eventually at the end of the war will be pressurized. So that's our plane, and here is our video. So the video is from a movie that you can get on the internet, from YouTube, maybe even from the library, but you just go to YouTube, it's easy. It's called Target for Today. It was a training film, I think made in 1942 or 43. And it follows, you're going to see an actual bombing mission. Real bombing. There's no Hollywood on this thing. It's completely nonfiction documentary. You'll know it right away. And we're going to see a bombing mission. We're going to see, it runs about 15 minutes. count those three? You allowed to count those three? 23, right.
24.
Okay. You can see and hear well enough back here? All right, you're good? Okay.
This plane from the force, which is to attack England, is now approaching the Danish coast, and the formation is subject to enemy attack at any moment. It is now 10:30 hours, and Denmark has been penetrated to some distance without any great opposition as yet. So far, there has been only some light and inaccurate flight.
When you give me more volume, I prefer it that way, and then I will drop it on my computer so that I can adjust it, because it varies.
That makes sense.
So we're good.
Yeah, thank you so much.
on, the Anklin formation has to contend with constant German fighter attack from all levels and all clock positions. During this time, the gunners aboard the fortresses knock down fighter after fighter. However, the gunnery of the forts, no matter how sensational it may be, is only to ensure the successful performance of the mission. It is not the job or purpose of forts or liberators to seek out action with enemy fighters. They merely defend themselves against enemy fighter attack so that they can destroy their target and bring their crews back safely to their home bases. Moment comes now for the lead navigator and bombardier. The formation is approaching the initial point. That is the point where the wing will turn off and make its bombing run on the target. Upon proper navigation to this point may rest the success of the entire mission. Once the combat wing has reached the IP, it breaks up into 3 component groups, for the wing formation is too unwieldy for a unit bombing operation. As the IP is reached and the lead airplane of the lead group is about to make the turn, it fires 2 red flares, spaced 5 seconds apart. Then the group makes its turn onto the run-up. The low group goes on straight ahead for 20 seconds, then makes its turn. The high group proceeds for 20 seconds beyond the low group's turn, then it turns on to the run-up. The most critical defensive period in the mission has begun. The wing, to accomplish most efficiently its primary purpose, the bombing of the target, has sacrificed its mutual defensive firepower, and the groups are thrown on their own. Now the crucial moment is almost here. The moment around which the entire mission revolves. Bay doors open, the group is committed to its attack. No evasive action may be taken until the bombs are away. And at this time, the formation is most vulnerable to attack, both from flak and enemy fighters. An hour later, the second task force comes over the target. Task Force comes over its target at Danzig. Bombs away! The 4th and 5th Task Forces arrive over the harbor area of Gdynia. Bombs away! 114 2 hours. At the fields, it's getting on towards the most nervous of all times, the estimated time of return. Everyone who stays behind sweats out this period at the end of each mission. Here at the control tower, at the dispersal areas, at the Red Cross, at the Officers Club, everywhere on the field, the one thing paramount in everyone's mind is that the group is due back. To attack the target. How many have returned? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 dispatched, 18 returned. 23 dispatched, 23 return. However, there are other groups which weren't so fortunate. 18 dispatched, 17 returned. 20 dispatched, 19 returned. 20 dispatched, 14 returned. 19 dispatched, 18 returned. 20 dispatched, 10 returned. 18 dispatched, 8 returned. Flares dropped from aircraft signal the presence of wounded aboard. These airplanes are given priority in landing.
All right, so now you know what a bombing mission is about, right? And then I'll come back for sure. Okay, let's continue with our story. We've still got a lot more. Some really good stuff coming up. So on his 21st mission, some raid over Ludwigshafen, Germany. The date is December 30th, 1943. They dropped the bombs over the target, just like we saw, and the B-17 is hit by flak over the target. Who can tell me what flak is? It's what? Anti-aircraft fire. Big guns from the ground. Somehow they get up to 30,000 feet. Don't know how they do it, but hits a plane. 2 of the 4 engines are hit, and they become a straggler. That means they're separated from the rest of the formation. They can't keep up with the formation. So a German Me-109 spots them, say, oh, okay, that's exactly what the fighter planes are looking for, and he radios for a total of 7 German Me-109, that's a fighter plane, German fighter plane. And they start attacking the plane. So a reporter came to the house many years ago, interviewing my father asked him, what were you thinking at that moment? Plane was being shot up. And he said, I thought I'm dead. He keeps on firing. I got, no, we don't have time for that. But anyway, that's going to be his voice if you really want to, So the plane's being shot up, and it's a losing battle. And the pilot gives the order to evacuate. I think they pulled on a rope or something, a wire, and the bell went off, that sort of thing. And so remember I showed you the front of the plane where the navigator and the bombardier are together in the same space. So they're more familiar with each other. They're having a conversation. And the bombardier would say to my father before this, if we ever get shot down, I'm going to be the first one out. And my father would say, how can you? I'm next to the door. Well, he got out. Okay? It's a hatch, really. And Red Dog, he takes off and jumps out. And my father's coming. Let me see if we have. Okay, yeah. So here's a plane. And you got 4 hatches here. So the navigator bombardier in the front here, and Red Dog, that's the nickname of the bombardier, Tarkington, Warren Tarkington, jumps out, and there's a second hatch here for other men. There's a third hatch there for the waist gunners, and the fourth hatch is there. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you, the waist gunners, they've got these monster, like these big guns, but they're open there. You see, there's a window there, right? Minus 40 degrees. They're flying at 150 miles an hour. And they're really cold, but it's a cold weather job, of course. It's all cold weather jobs, but especially that one. So you see, they jump out of the plane, and my father's coming down through the clouds, and he pulls on his parachute, nothing happens. So pulls it harder, it opens up. Okay, fine. All 10 men bail out. They all survive in this case. And the bomber crashes in a field in Compremy, France, north of Paris. Okay? So a reporter asked him, what were you thinking when you were coming down? And my father said, this isn't something you do every day. Okay? But they hit the ground, and they're thinking, oh, well, what's going to happen? I mean, they'll probably become POWs. That's all they kind of knew. And again, all 10 men survived. 3 were injured. They got captured right away. And of course, as you're coming down, obviously the enemy, is scanning the skies constantly for downed airplanes. And when they see a downed airplane, they'll see parachutes, whatever, they send out a search party, right? But they're coming down to occupied France, and the French people, they're taking a risk if they hide them out, a big risk, but they're kind of fed up being occupied, right? They've been occupied for now 3.5 years. Really tired of this. There's a plane. We got a photograph of the downed plane. Souvenir of your contact with the French underground. This photo was made during German occupation by one of my friends 2 days after the forcing down of this flying fortress 2 miles from Saint-Just. Oh, so the French underground is very well organized at this point. They got a job for everybody. It's one of the jobs, the photographer. So the French underground also eventually puts together this map. So Feingold and Tarkington are here, really close to each other. Adams and Nisi are also close to each other. Anyway, they're spread out here. The pilot, the co-pilot over here, this is east, this is west, so they stay with the plane a little bit longer, and the plane crashes here. Okay? Again, French underground, they're up to the job. You can see, you'll see more. They're up to the job, and so they hit the ground, and my father hears, Lou! He knows exactly where he is because he's a navigator. Who knows my name here in France? This is English I'm hearing. He spoke a little bit of French, and it was the bombardier, Tarkington. Tarkington's a little bit injured, but kind of okay. Okay enough. And, so I went there 80 years later. There's me in the field last year. The exact field? Okay. I mean, Wonder what it looked like then. But something like that, okay? And now going to be in one of these categories. An evader avoids detection and capture while in enemy-held territory. Escaper frees himself from enemy custody. So that's like the great escape. You know, it's not too many people in that category. And a prisoner of war is what most people are going to be. Person who's captured, right? So again, this is December 30th, 1943. Here are your chances. Total shot down, 60,000. Killed in action, 26,000, almost 50%. Taken prisoner, definitely 50%, 30,000. Evaded capture, 4,000. So he's one of the 4,000. All right? A missing in action letter arrives, the grandfather, 2 weeks later. It's missing in action. All right? Fine, okay. I mean, not fine, but. And what's going on behind the scenes? So MI9 is British CIA, Military Intelligence 9, still today. Tasked with aiding resistance fighters in enemy-occupied territory, recovering Allied troops behind enemy lines, communicating with British POWs, and sending advice and equipment. All right, so they had set up, top secret of course, this escape operation using French Canadians. Obviously going to be fluent in the language. Lucien Demas escaped from German captivity in France by jumping off a train while en route to a POW camp. Ray Labrosse. Their job description was locating safe houses, recruiting doctors to treat the sick or wounded, arranging for printers to forge identity documents, locating guides to evacuate the escapees in Paris and to the Brittany coast, that's northwest France, the English Channel, where they were picked up by gunboats. 136 men liberated through this operation. So, here's the escape lines. Obviously, it's a top secret map. Obviously, the Germans don't have this map and, you know, this sort of thing. And East Anglia, go this way, drop bombs, come back, right? So men are being shot down in Holland, in Belgium, and in France. The escape lines up to this point, fourth quarter, 1943, go this way. All the way through France, try to get to Spain, neutral country, right? And a lot got picked up, a lot got captured. You see how long it is. It's 500 miles, and you have to go over the Pyrenees. It's a long way. Most got captured that way. It's too hard. The new escape lights called Operation Bonaparte goes this way. It was actually an overnight train. So they're collected here over a 30-day period and sent to Paris, and then transported once a month, dark of the moon, to the Brittany coast to a town called Pluha, and then eventually going to get over to Great Britain. But obviously, there are all kinds of hazards along the way. So now it's down on the ground, still December 30th, 1943. Peasants from the field. Remember the ones who are looking at the plane? Well, same thing. They come out and, bonjour, whatever. And they say, give us your parachutes. They're motioning, give us your parachutes. They use silk or whatever for clothing or whatever. Get rid of your parachute, right? You can't be seen with that. It's obvious thing, bring your parachute. And, okay, so I'm going to jump past this. Hold on. What's going on here? Okay, so we got some other, I added some new things here. So, okay. So, they're like, what do we do? My father spoke a little bit of French. Most people didn't. And try to talk to somebody. They see a man with a cart. Try to help him. Anyway, this guy comes by eventually on a bicycle. Speaks perfect English. And can you help us? Can you help us? Yeah, I can help you. Can we trust this guy? Because they know there's collaborators with the Germans, a lot. And can we trust this guy? Well, we have to trust someone. He seems okay. Meet me at 6 o'clock where the wires cross the road. His name is Jean Crouet. So over this, it's a total of 2 months. They land on the field in Saint-Just. They're the home of Jean Crouet and then Harry the baker. And then for 2 weeks, move on to Odette and Gaston Legrand. We're going to meet them all. Home of the Acquers, they get fake IDs. Then they're sent on to Paris for 4 weeks in an apartment. And then they take a train to Guingamp-Plouha, where they wait for evacuation. Okay? So here's, again, another map. So they hit the ground here, they make stops in Clermont and Neuilly and on to Paris. Okay, so, and each of the 7 men, because 3 are injured, they're not part of the escape route, go, different ways. It's all documented, the exact path. So I went there with my sister last year, 80 years after the fact. And it's amazing. There are people there that love this story just as much as we do. They're like documenting it, and they're like so totally connected. And you see, I'm very well versed in the details of the story. They're very well versed in the same details. Of course, they're versed in French. And so we get, there's after France is liberated, okay, so Jean Crouet, that's what he looks like on the left, operated a safe house where Feingold and Tarkington stayed. And then in November, after France was liberated, we get this picture, and on the back is, we were delivered from German occupation by American forces in August. In July, we had a lot of trouble with Germans when they found what job we did with parachutists. Some of us were killed, and others are prisoners in Germany. I succeeded in escaping, and my wife and I are in good health now. So I went back, you see, there's a house today, right? It's pretty cool, right? 2024, you kind of see some resemblance there. Yeah, what? You got this little awning thing, right? This, pretty much, that's pretty unique there. So what I then found out, Red Dog had passed away. He died young of cancer in the early 60s, but he had a son. We made contact with his son last year. And his son came up with this letter from Jean Crouet. And we read this letter. So he sends this letter 2 years after the fact. The exact 2 years. December 30th, 1945. So I'll read this. My dear Red Dog, this is how close these are forever bonds. Forever. This is now 2 years ago that I met you. Do you remember? Let me tell you the story. 4 o'clock. A lot of flying fortresses in the sky going west. German anti-aircraft guns make noise. 4:30, a fortress moving slowly, one propeller off, another stopped. I go up on the roof of my laboratory with my spyglass, and I'm on the lookout. The men jump and parachutes open. I make an estimation of the point where they seem to be, and run to Dr. Collard's house and say to him, go ahead to Tremelviller's, farm and bring him alive. I phoned to Jeannot. I think you can have a rabbit in Plainval Wood. Rabbit was our code name for Allied parachutists when we used the phone. I came back to my laboratory and said to Viad, take your bicycle and go to Abbey Wood. Tell to the 2 men to stay here and wait for me. So remember, Tremelviller's farm? So I sent an email to the contact in France, and later that day, I get a photograph. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, it's a real place. 5:30, I go to Abbey Wood. I saw 2 men to whom a Belgian had given civilian clothes. One is black hair, the other red hair. This one get a sprain. They look very anxious and to be cold. They said to me that they think I was a German. Me, a German, my God. They asked me many questions. I shout, shut up, listen to me. Let me match my watch with yours. At 7 o'clock, I'll be waiting for you at the point where this road crossed a lot of German telephone wires, okay? Yes, good luck. Take care to hide yourself if you see Germans. 6 o'clock. Another flyer has landed 2 miles from Saint-Just. I go to the place with Dr. Delignon. We took the man in our car and went back to Saint-Just. Dr. Delignon took the men in charge at home. Jeannot phoned to me Les carottes, I can't pronounce it. Carrots are cooked. That means to be on the lookout. Germans are searching for them. 7 o'clock. I whistle in the night, just as the place I said to the men. They are here. Good job. We have to walk across plowed land and trees tied to iron wires. The man with a sprain is suffering. I hide the man in my old house, in an old house. They lay down on the floor upon old papers. I give them counterpanes and tea and rum. 9 o'clock. The men are at home. My wife gave them dinner. They don't know, but my wife and I know that Germans are patrolling in the village. We are on hot spots, but the men are tired and they need bed. We give them a bed upstairs. Good night, boys. Okay. And then a few years later, Jean Crouet, I guess he's on the left, and there's Red Dog on the right. They meet, and there's a photograph in the newspaper. Okay. Obviously, he was the one with the red hair. My father was the one with the black hair, of course. And so then they move on to the home of the Legrands. Okay? And then we have Edmund and Odette and Gaston Legrand were the real heroes. And that's their dairy and cheese shop. It's a vital industry at that time. You had access to food and everything. And then there's a photograph of what it looked like, last year. Okay? And then they move on to the home of the Acquers. Okay? And Monsieur Acquer was a forger. So that's the family. You look at that family. They're innocent. They're not involved in anything like that. I mean, it's just a great family. And then that's the farmhouse. Today the family still lives in the farmhouse. I mean, different people, but the descendants still live in the farmhouse. So, I don't have time for that. No, let's do that. So here's the plaque that was installed outside the farmhouse with all the men that were hidden in this farmhouse. You see the plaque there. Feingold's name is up there. It doesn't really matter, but there it is today. And so eventually, years later, the French underground would make contact with the evaders, the flyers, like in the 70s or something like that. But they kept their names and addresses, and they wrote on a sheet of paper. But of course, this can't be found, and so they would hide it underneath the wallpaper, secret hiding place there, and that's what it looked like today, or last year. They created a fake identity card, deaf mute farmer, so you wouldn't have to speak, whatever. Monsieur Acquer made the card. Okay. Then they get moved on to safe houses in Paris, and that's a lot safer than being out in the country. You kind of mixed in there, and no one's really going to notice you too much there. It's much safer there. And they were there for about a month, and then they get ready to move on to the coast. They're only evacuated once a month, dark of the moon. I mean, dark of the moon's what, 2 or 3 days, nights a month, and that's when they evacuated. So 2 or 3 days before dark of the moon, they're given an interrogation, and then they're put on a train, overnight train to Guingamp. That's the larger city there, and then eventually they're going to be moved on to the coastal town of Pluha, where this escape operation is. And they're then put into the house of Alphonse. That's the final house that they're going to be at. And let me see. They eventually accumulate 17 evaders by the end of February. And they take them along this path at night. We walked the path last year, same path. They know where it is. And they walk along the path, and they bring us down to this. It's a cliff. Now, who here has really seen a cliff? A cliff. Aside from Roadrunner. Cliffs we know about is Roadrunner. Have you ever seen a real cliff? Maybe you have, maybe a few of them. So, okay. So, but these are real cliffs. And, just like in the Roadrunner car, like the ones there. And anyway, so they're brought here, and then there's a sentry point, German sentry point there and there. but you see how there's like these nicks and coves there. It's kind of, you can kind of hide there. And that's what it looks like. That's the cliff. So they're told they have to come down the cliff. I mean, just imagine, it's a little hard to see, but how do you come down a cliff like that? I mean, it's
In the dark.
and the cold. It's end of February. I mean, all that sort of thing. And of course, you can't say anything, right? You slip. You can't say ouch or anything. Yeah. And so they would somehow inch their way down. That's all I can say. I mean, that's it. But as finally got there, because I've been sort of dreaming about this for years. And there's another view of the cliff. Okay, and they come down the cliff, and then they're waiting at the bottom of the cliff for the British gunboat. They're given a signal over the BBC. Some of them are House of Alphonse, whatever, Maison d'Alphonse, and then they know the British gunboat is coming out that night. The escape is on, so to speak. That's at 7:30. I don't know. I guess this is now midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And they're waiting for the rowboats. They send rowboats out. This is the gunboat that arrives. That's a gunboat offshore, and they send rowboats out to pick them up, bring them back into the gunboat, and take them back to, I think it's about Dartmouth, the Western England, across the English Channel. And so a telegram arrives. This is now Leap Day or something like that, 1944. Telegram arrives, you see the date there, March 16th, 1944, to Max Feingold. I'm pleased to inform you, report received states your son, Second Lieutenant Louis Feingold, who was previously reported missing in action, was returned to duty. All right. So my cousin gave me this account a few years ago. My cousin was in high school at that time. And my cousin wrote this. So this is first in January and then March. I have a vivid recall of my father, Lou's uncle, returning home with the news. They had gone to the dress workshop on 38th Street and was told the news by Max. The news being the missing in action letter in January. It was late at night and I was awakened from my sleep. The mood was somber. Normally, my father would return home around 6 p.m. I believe that the other brothers were also informed. My father, having been a prisoner of war in Sicily during World War I, was hopeful. Now it's March or April. I also remember the night several months later when my father returned home from the celebration party at the Rose Ray Frocks workshop. I also remember the Shabbat that Lou spent with us in South Ozone Park. It included the prayer service at our synagogue with Lou reciting the prayer Benching Gamel, giving thanks for his successful escape. Lou was dapper in his uniform with the silver bar insignia. I was still in high school and in awe. The picture of Lou in uniform was my favorite until I saw the photo of your mom in the black one-piece bathing suit. So there's the welcome home party. I guess it's March or April. Take them a little while to get back to the States. It's a welcome home party, the dress factory, okay. It's a totally different era. And then they have this happy reunion. This is an amazing photograph. So the pilot, so my father's on the left, then the pilot, the radio operator, of course unidentified, and they're at this nightclub in April in New York. So the pilot and radio operator, they also evacuated, but they escaped a different way. Same operation, but separately. And then they all show up at this nightclub, reunion, again. Okay, there's Red Dog Tarkington. Okay, so we're almost finished, but it's still got to get more interesting, because I'm not born yet, of course. And phone rings in 1978. So up to this time, this was, okay, this is a good story. And you're kids, you kind of take these things for granted. It's like, okay, yeah, thanks for telling us. Okay, fine. Phone rings, and this guy named Jarvis Cooper says, I've been looking for you. There's no Facebook back then. I've been searching the phone books in the New York area because the Legrands, remember they were the Legrands that had the dairy and cheese shop, they're coming to the United States and they want to visit everyone that they hit out, as many as they can find. We've been looking for you. And so it all got arranged, and the Legrands came in 1978 to visit, and of course the newspaper came out and that sort of thing. And there's my father on the left, and my mother, and the Legrands to the right. And then they said, oh yeah, by the way, we got this organization called the Air Force Escape and Evasion Society. It's similar to the bomb group organizations, but it's people that all escaped or evaded captivity. And we meet once a year, we have a reunion, and we have a newsletter and all that sort of thing. And so they went to the reunions every year for like 30 years. My father lived to 89, my mom to 94. So, all right, you want to read a little bit more about this? There's a book, it's not my book, it's whatever, I think it's in the library loan system. The Shelburne Escape Line. His pilot was Dick Smith. He was interviewed for that, he's quoted in that book. So once they got involved with this reunion organization, my father would see his pilot every year at the reunion, and some of the others, but mostly the pilot. Let me see, no, can't see that one. Yes. So, Ryan, can you turn on the lights? So, thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate the opportunity to present this at the Wayne Library. Yes, sir.
Did your father receive a medal?
Steve,
And the Air Force medal, Air medal?
I guess we don't pay too much attention to that stuff, but yes, there's some medals at home. So we have them in a little shadow box or something like that. I don't know if one's like a really special medal, whatever. He received veterans benefits, mostly. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. The first is, I was familiar with a southern line through Spain, and I thought that most of the people went through there, but now you indicate this northern pass or escape route. And when did that come about, or was it always a by?
So the northern one, that's the one I know about. The others I don't know too much about. But the northern one opened essentially January through July 1944. There's so many men, January, dark of the moon, February, dark of the moon, and so on, till July. And then France was liberated, I guess, between July and August 1944. So that's when that one was open. It was very advanced and it was very effective. They didn't lose anybody. And yes.
And what about the distance between Saint-Just and the Compagnie or whatever, the other, where you had the 10 people across that? Was that in terms of miles?
10 miles, maybe.
10 miles?
Something like that,
and
yeah.
it was all the same group that helped them escape.
Yeah, well, you saw they bailed out, but some bailed out, a few miles west, and so they would have hit the ground a little bit. But the French underground, they knew the territory really, obviously, very well. They knew they were waiting for it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
When was your father discharged?
January 1946. Yeah, at the end.
Was he stateside then?
Yeah, so he's back in America, March or April 1944, and then he becomes a navigation instructor. Yeah, that's pretty much what most of the other ones did. They become just instructors, so they're pretty well qualified for that at that point. Yes, sir.
How many bombs did you carry on the plane?
I don't know the number, but I know they're like 250-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs. Maybe the total weight load would have been 5,000 or 10,000 pounds of bombs. That sounds like a lot. That's pretty much the information I have.
It'd be 500 or 10,000, depending on how far
I'm sorry?
the range. It'd be
Based on, okay.
5,000 or 10,000, depending on the range.
Okay, yes. That's good. Okay. Who else? So, my sister and I went to France, to this area last year, and there was somebody that just lives for these descendants to come visit, and then he gives them a tour. And he takes them to the descendants of everyone there. So we had Harry the baker. They were in that house for like two nights or something like that. So he brings us to the bakery. Now Harry family doesn't operate the bakery anymore. Someone else does. And he says, okay, we go in the back, go up this ladder, and there's this loft there. He said, that's where they slept. And it's still there today, 80 years ago. And they know exactly the details. And they're just like, so happy. We're just like, we can see, And then we come down, and it's the back, and it's like, oh, wow, those are nice croissants. Those are nice big croissants there. Okay, you can't have them, but tomorrow we come back, we'll buy them. And then, again, they brought us to the safe house. And one of the safe houses, that's that farm there. And they had their descendants there at the farm. And, so it was great. And then, of course, we went to Pluha, the end, because this was kind of north of Paris. Pluha is like 250, 300 miles west. That's where they evacuated. And we got another tour there. We walked along the route where they, escaped from. They know exactly where it is today. So yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your father. He's a real hero and all these crew. So,
Yeah. Thank you. I'm just really fortunate that my family, my mother especially, but everybody involved just saved all this, and then I was able to put it all together. I've been giving this story now for about 10 years, these types of settings in libraries and things like that. And so if you like this program, or if you like whatever, I have more than 30 programs. My specialty is American business history. I do Alexander Hamilton, I do Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie's a good one for libraries because he built a lot of libraries. I have a new one right now, is American Bandstand in Philadelphia, where I play all the music from the late 50s, the performers that were on the TV show back in the early days of American Bandstand. So that's the new one I'm doing. And if you're interested in something like that, just ask them, the library, to bring me back, and they'll come back and do that. So
I was fascinated by the wallpaper, the hiding. So what did they do? Kind of put a list and then wallpaper over it, or tear parts?
No, I guess they kind of just, was it? They just...
Where the seam is?
Yeah, exactly. And just...
Slide something in.
Yeah, there's actually, let me see if I have... Ryan, can you turn off the lights again? Let me see if I have... There's some details here that because I have to sort of cut this down for time.
No,
I know. It's
That's it.
That's it, but there's... So I don't have it up here, but it's sort of like a symbol of a double cross. And they had the double cross there. And I knew that I'd seen the double cross before. Again, I don't have an image of it, but just think of a cross, but a double cross. And I said, where did I see that before? I said, oh yeah, the movie Casablanca. Remember the guy had a ring, and he said, you want to buy my ring? And the ring had, if you look at it, the double cross. And the double cross was the secret image of the French underground. So I remember that from Casablanca, but I never quite fully understood it from Casablanca. Said, buy my ring, and oh, now I know what the ring is on, and why he showed, whatever. He provided that sort of thing. So again, they had double crosses at this, the farmhouse, which was a safe house, and they, oh, okay, now I get it. That's right. It's a secret sort of thing.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for coming out.